Hello everyone, it's time for another one take tutorial. So here I am, and if you don't know what one take tutorials are, it means there are no edits in this video. If there is a cut, it's because like the camera shut off, etc, etc. But otherwise, this is an unedited video, so you kind of just see like whatever happens. And I am warning you that today is one of those days where there's a lot of cloud movement, and so even just setting up for this, Christina and I experienced very different lighting shifts, so it might potentially get really dark at some point, but you know, that's part of it. So today for the one take tutorial, usually I talk about like some kind of theme and then I do a makeup look with it. Today I wanted to talk about winter and resting. So that's generally what I'm working with here and how I'm navigating winter this year. And Tato's just over there digging a hole to nowhere through the rug. So that's what's happening here. And I'm also going to be doing my like everyday makeup look right now. So I've been wearing this makeup recently in my videos and in my slowdowns, and people have been commenting on it and saying that they really like it. So I figured that I would share what I've been doing. And so in one take tutorials, I typically like don't talk about the products at all or very much, but they will be listed on screen so you can see what I'm using. So I'm just gonna move everything over so it's a little bit closer. I'm always a little bit nervous entering in because I'm like, okay, I have my timer, I have to have all the components to like do this. And it's not really like super planned out, so who knows what I'm gonna say. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with primer here. Which one do I want to use first? I'm using the hydrating primer because I'm using two primers. I've really been liking that recently. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so winter and resting. Now that I'm living in New York City, this is my second winter that I'm experiencing living here full time in New York. And I feel like I've just learned a lot living through 4 seasons weather. And you know, in the past in winter in New York City, by this point, especially in February, it would be really cold. There would be lots of snow on the ground, and now that's not really happening. It's just kind of like gray and gloomy a lot, and there's been a lot of rain but not really any snow. And so I feel like that weather just can really affect me, that like gray weather when it's like really wet. I really love snow because it just seems like so magical, especially because I'm from the West Coast. By the way, this is the blurring one, just so we know the difference between the primers that are happening here. I like layering these two together. So it's been an adjustment for me because I moved here thinking, you know, my winters would be more of a winter wonderland, and it's really more of just like a gray, gloomy wonderland. And I think last year I had a harder time with winter than I realized because winter is also a slow season just professionally for me every single year. Winter is always slow. So like the period between January and March especially is just really, really slow. Like in terms of working with brands and just general workflow, like there aren't as many emails coming in. It's really just a much slower period, and that has always been hard for me to navigate because I'm gonna try and do better at holding up the products, by the way. Even though I'm not talking about them, I wanna at least like bring them into the screen. So I'm gonna try and do that. We'll see how it goes. But in past years, I've really panicked around the slowness. Like I go into these like spirals, like I'm never gonna get work again. And like now that I'm like in this position where I feel like grounded in this moment, like that statement seems really just like extreme, to be saying to myself, I'm never gonna get work again. Um, and so this year, moving into winter, I have been really trying to move with the season instead of pushing against it. So I think one of the reasons why I would panic in past years was because I was really trying to push against the slowness and make it not slow. And like I would try to force myself to be busy, and I was just constantly like waiting or looking and just really expending a lot of energy on trying to like work against what was happening. And this year I'm trying to work more with the season, and I think it's actually been really helpful because I'm reading this book that's all about like living your life with the seasons. And I like it because you don't have to read the book in order from like beginning to end. You can start at whatever season is relevant to you. So I just flipped it open to winter, and I read about winter, and it talks about, you know, like foods that are nourishing in the winter. It's a lot of like eating seasonally, and in the winter I naturally crave like a lot of pastas and soups and foods like that that are warming and comforting, and like roasted vegetables and just foods like that that are heartier and just feel like comfort food to me. And this book was like encouraging eating those kinds of foods, and I feel like a lot of times we can be made to like feel bad or ashamed or guilty of the foods that we intuitively want to be eating. Like we're told, you know, eating pasta is bad, like eat more salad or whatever it is. And everybody has like their own dietary needs, but for me, I know in winter my body just like wants to be eating pastas and soups and like these heartier foods, and I've been allowing myself to do that, and it has just felt really good. It's felt uplifting for me. And another thing it says in the book is that winter is a time for rest. So it is a period where we should be sleeping more than we normally do. And that is something before I even started reading this book, I was noticing I was wanting to do. Like I've been sleeping for at least 1 extra hour every night, more than I usually do. And that has been really, really amazing. Like my body has just kind of like naturally fallen into that. And in the past, I would definitely resist that. Like, oh, I need to like be getting up. Like I can't let myself sleep for an extra 30 minutes or an extra hour or whatever it is, especially on a work day. And this year I'm just like, you know, this is my slow season. There isn't any like urgency. I am going to sleep for an extra hour, and it's actually been really amazing for my morning experience to have that extra hour of sleep. It feels so rejuvenating and replenishing, and just like a gift that I'm giving to myself that's so simple, but I've really been feeling the effects of it. And this book is talking about that replenishment and how it's necessary, and how so much of nature is also doing the same thing. You know, animals are sleeping and resting more. A lot of trees and plants are going into a rest phase where on the outside they may look like they're lifeless, but they're still very much alive on the inside. It reminds me of the Secret Garden movie, if anybody has seen the Secret Garden, where they go into the garden and it's during a period of the year where the garden looks like it's dead, and one of the characters like shows by like cutting away a piece of the plant that it's actually not dead, that it's still green underneath. And I feel like that is what's happening for me. Like I am definitely outwardly more in this like restful phase, and on the inside I feel like I'm replenishing myself so much. Like that green is just really building, and you know, I've felt it. Like I haven't wanted to be on social media as much. I've definitely been more inward and like paying attention to like what's going on with me. I've been spending more time at home. That's another thing that this book talks about, is that winter is really a time to be at home more and to have more quiet time and to reevaluate your life and to also move with this change. I also just realized I didn't bring like a tissue or anything, so I guess I'm gonna have to wipe my fingers off on my beauty blender after I blend this in. Let's see if I can get through this one take tutorial without beauty blending the tears away. Let's hope that the only thing I'm beauty blending this one take tutorial is this skin tint. So yeah, this book is just, you know, talking about the things that get you in balance during the winter, and so much of it is like quiet activity, and it encourages, you know, movement and activity still, but activity that is in flow with like the quiet cooler winter months. And so that means, you know, more indoor activities and movement that is like slower, so like restorative yoga or just like gentle yoga or slower paced yoga. And I have found myself gravitating towards this. So a lot of this I was already kind of doing before reading this book, and then reading this book gave me language for what I was feeling and what I had been starting to practice, and it just really makes sense to me and where I am in my life right now. And like last week I was sick, and I had this like whole transformative experience around being sick, because in the past I have always waited until I am like really sick and can't do anything to rest. And last week I felt myself starting to get sick, and I stopped and rested at the first sign of starting to get sick. And again, this was something that was like really working with the season that I'm in right now, and I recognize that. Like there are other times of the year where I'm just like running around and I get sick, and I'm just like, oh my God, why is this happening right now? I mean, it's never like fun to be sick, but I had this moment of recognizing I'm in this slow season, just professionally, personally, like seasonally. When I look at the world around me, there are just like less people outside, there's less movement. Let me take some time to rest. Let me work with the conditions around me and create a space of rest for myself. And so I rested. I did about like an hour or two of work every day, but other than that, I like really I slept. I didn't like move my body a ton because I was just feeling really fatigued, and I was sneezing and coughing, and I had a sore throat, and I just kind of like made myself a little nest on the couch, and my past self had gone out and proactively purchased cold supplies, like flu and cold supplies. And so I had everything that I needed at home. I had like cough drops, I had vitamins, I had like Sumo citrus that I've really been loving. That's another thing with like eating with the seasons. I've really just been enjoying the things that have a short season that I can only enjoy right now, like sumo citrus. They're in season from mid-January to March. So it's a very short period of time where I can enjoy them, and I've just been soaking it up. And I feel like when I was sick, I was just really craving, you know, that like citrus and that vitamin C, and it felt so nourishing to like have that as a snack. I was eating a lot of soup because I had stocked my kitchen with different soups, and I just really let myself rest. And of course I went into, at first, like a panic about slowing down, and I kept bringing myself, oh wait, that's not actually what I want to do. That's part of my old routine. Now I curl my eyelashes first and then I put on my eyeliner. But I went into this panic about, okay, I'm all over the place. I didn't put on my under eye concealer. What am I doing here? Okay, we're putting this on before all of this. I did start worrying like, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not being productive enough, I'm lazy, I'm definitely never gonna get work again if I lay on the couch and try to get better, like I need to push through this. And I just had this thought drop into my head, and it was, rest is precious. And that we are often in the business of being busy. And when I thought about the word business, if you break it down, it is busyness. We're in the business of being busy. And we are like encouraged as a broader culture to really push ourselves to our limits and to these extremes. And so it felt rebellious in a way to not engage with that anymore, and to step back and say, like, this is what my body needs. I'm in a position where I can give this to my body, and so I'm not going to resist that anymore. I'm going to let my body rest as it is clearly telling me it wants to rest. And it was honestly the best thing that I could have done for myself, because I feel like slowing down in that way and letting myself rest allowed me to heal, but it also just brought me so much inspiration. Like, I was just thinking about how this was a totally new and different way for me to be sick, for me to be truly caring for myself and taking it day by day, and not trying to like force myself into a space that was like beyond what I was capable of giving, and then getting to a place where I would just get even sicker and feel even worse, and then not be able to do anything and be down for even longer. And what I realized is, like, proactively giving myself those days of rest when I first started getting sick expedited my healing process. And I didn't get to that part where I was just feeling so incredibly sick, like I couldn't do anything. It was just like, you know, feeling a little sick and like hazy and tired and fatigued, but not totally down for the count. And it just felt so different, and like my recovery was just so much faster. And it seems like such common sense, because when we go to the doctors are always telling us, well, lots of fluids and rest, and we're just like, okay, can't you tell me anything new? And I actually did that this time, and I'm like, oh, there's something to it. And it's just hitting me now at 31 years old. I rested a ton, and I drank lots of tea and had lots of soup, and just allowed myself to truly be in that space and rest. And it was so incredibly replenishing. And now that I am healthy, I've also been thinking about like what this rest means to me while being healthy. And something that I've realized is that, oh, let me see the timer. Oh no, it disappeared. I don't know how long we've been going for. Christina, can you turn the timer back on? I need to see, otherwise I just feel like I'm totally flailing. But thank you. Okay, 20 minutes. We're at 20 minutes, folks. You know that because you can see, but I can't see. So another thing that I've realized is that because I have been more intentional about being at home and having more quiet time at home, I have been more inspired to do work around my place. And so like ideas came to me. Like I haven't really been sure what I want to do with my office / guest room, and over this winter season an idea just came to me and I was like, oh, this is what I want to do with it. And then I was able to like start executing it, and I'm gonna have things installed next week, and I'm really excited because it feels like I'm in this slow period externally, but I'm like nesting inside. And I was telling Erica, like, I feel like I'm on this path to like having a spring debut with my place. Like I'm at home in winter, like resting and replenishing and kind of tinkering around my space. And then I just feel like spring is gonna come and like I'm gonna come to life in a new way, but it will also be cool to like see my space come to life in a new way too, with all of the little tweaks and tinkering that I'm doing around in my space. And it just feels like the time of year where like I want to be doing that too. So that feels like a big deal because like I like home design and decor, but like the actual execution of it and like sourcing of things is like really overwhelming to me. And so I'm so grateful for this inspiration because it at least gave me a vision and a direction for where I'm going, and I was able to like look for things under that inspiration, because before I just wasn't really sure like where I wanted to go, and it takes time to figure that out. Like I had to live in this space not only for months, but also go through this winter season where I'm just at home more, because in the summer and in the spring and even in the fall, I'm just not at home as much. It's like really busy with work. The weather is really nice, so I want to be outside. I have later nights because there's more daylight out, etc., etc. And so I'm just not having that same quality time with my space. But having these quiet evenings in the winter, I'm getting that really special time with my space, which makes me feel more connected to my space, and I think really just infuses this kind of like, I think, healing and replenishing energy into the space when I allow myself to just be at home and to be quiet and to have early nights, to sleep more. It really makes my space feel like, okay, when I come back to it in these other seasons, it's going to be that space of replenishment. It's going to be that sanctuary for me because I'm allowing it to be right now. So yeah, that feels really good. And, you know, I've like taken the initiative to like be at home more, but that doesn't mean that I don't like want to be social, that I don't want to like see anyone, because it's a real thing to like be affected by, I'm doing the thing where I'm holding up the products. This is not helpful to wave it around. It is a real thing to be affected by like this gloomy gray weather. And I feel like in New York, we've just had some weeks where like the majority of the week is just so gray and so wet. And it is so hard for me because daylight definitely affects me a lot. And so the way that I have been working with that is I have been staying at home more, but inviting people over to my place, whether it's for dinner or book club meetings or just hanging out. And I've also been going to other people's homes because I think there's something really special about being in other people's homes, especially during this time of the year. And that has felt just like really, it feels really personal to be in somebody else's home and to like have dinner, to make a meal, to share a meal. And it really helps me with the winter blues to have that kind of socializing and to really be intentional about it. So I've been trying to make sure that every week I have at least one social activity with friends, whether it's like at my place, at their place, maybe we meet somewhere. But I've found that a lot of it is happening in our personal spaces, and that feels really, really cool because I feel like, you know, in summer and spring, you're like wanting to go to the park or like go to restaurants that have outdoor seating and things like that. So it feels really wonderful to like invite people into my space and infuse the space with that kind of loving energy and feed people. I get so much joy out of making a meal and sharing it with other people. Like this week, I'm hosting a dinner at my place, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it just feels like the time of year where I want to be doing that. You know, I was like, I just want to make like a hearty spaghetti and share it with people. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. And it feels like I'm honoring the deeper part of myself that wants to flow with the season, and I'm learning to quiet that part of myself that wants to resist the change. And it has been an adjustment for me because, you know, I'm coming from Los Angeles, which is the land of like eternal summer. It's basically one season all year round, and I was used to that. I was used to not really having these like significant changes. But what I've realized with the changing seasons is that change is supposed to happen. When I look out the window and I see, you know, like people dress differently or trees in a different phase or like plants in a different phase, I just realize that this is all supposed to be happening, that change is a completely natural part of life, and nature has its way of like flowing with that change. And so how can I incorporate that spirit into my life? How can I flow with these changes? Like what feels natural to me? And that's been really fun to explore. And it's also, I think, been kind of like a creative experience. Okay, this is the part where I get stressed out because as much as I love cloud paint, it also kind of like stresses me out applying it because I think it's the pores on my cheek, honestly. I have areas that are just kind of like stickier than others, so makeup will like fall in those places, and then in other places it doesn't want to like stick as much. So putting on cloud paint becomes a I'm always like, I like the way that it looks once I have it on, but the application part always makes me just like a little nervous when I'm in it. But a beauty blender helps me. So yeah, I feel like that's just kind of like where I've been, and I'm really just loving this extra rest I'm getting. It feels like a luxury that I just don't typically get to have in other times of the year, and it feels like a gift. It really does. And when I think about where I was last year with winter. It just feels like a time of the year where I'm just learning to celebrate like what like my body wants, like what I need mentally and emotionally, and like listening to that, tuning into that, and following it instead of fighting it. I wish I could just follow the cloud paint and not fight it. I just need to get past this. I can't talk through this. I need to like focus on the cloud paint here. I feel like I'm just gonna have really blushy cheeks, and you know, whatever. I like blush. Okay, so let's put on, I knew I should have just used a powder. Like, why do I do this to myself? Oh, it's this cheek that really like gives me the issues here. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna work with this instead of against it. So we're already here. What can I do? I'm just gonna put on some powder. This is the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores powder, which I actually really like. And I'm hoping that I take the puff that it comes with, because it's a really small puff, and then I transferred the product onto my Laura Mercier powder puff, because I like the bigger puff better. So I'm just gonna put this all over my face. I can't see the timer anymore. Oh no, everything's just going wrong. I feel like I went into this thinking I was prepared, and I'm not. Okay, so I'm getting frustrated with this. I'm gonna add a little bit of powder. I just feel like I can't fill in that one little space. I'm unhappy right now. We went through a real shift here. If this isn't a winter mood, I don't know what is. Ugh, this is so annoying. Like, why? For me, it's like showing up as this one piece right here doesn't want to like take the blush. The perfectionist inside of me is screaming, like full on screaming and throwing a tantrum right now. Okay, well, I'm not gonna fiddle with it anymore because I'm just gonna drive myself nuts. This is the point where I just need to stop. I don't know what this looks like on camera, so it is what it is. Oh, I have orange fingers. I just wasn't prepared. Didn't bring a makeup wipe. I'm gonna put on highlighter and just like finish this off and get myself out of this. Remind me next time not to use cloud paint in a tutorial like this because it was stressful. So now for lip product, I'm going to use this one from Laura Mercier. This is Charmeuse lipstick. I feel like I went through a whole range of emotions in this video, but you know what? I didn't cry. So that feels like an accomplishment. Not that it's like a bad thing to cry, because I feel like when you need to cry, you just gotta let it out. But I was really just hoping for one take tutorial where I did cry. Just one. So I feel like I'm getting it, which feels good. Okay. So, you know, my lesson of just like relaxing and working with what happens, working with what happened today. I don't know what's happening. I can't fully like see. The lighting isn't that like great with the mirror that I have right here. And so it looks like this cheek is darker than this cheek, but I'm not actually sure because the lighting is not even. So I feel like you get the picture. Like, this is it. This is it. This is winter. I'm feeling dead on the outside, but I'm alive on the inside. Just is what it is, folks. We went through a whole range of emotions here, but that's what a one-take tutorial is for. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to get going because we are beyond 30 minutes now. You know all of the things, the internet things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.